And now for a little bit of good news, the Director of Litigation for the Animal Defense Fund, Matthew Liebman, joins us on the Damage Report. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John.
Glad to have you here. So there's been a development in Iowa on one of these Ag-Gag laws that helps to hide some of the cruelty and just terrible treatment of animals in factory farms. Could you give us the rundown on what exactly happened?
Sure, yeah, so these are laws that make it a crime to conduct an undercover investigation at a factory farm or a slaughterhouse. And we just had a big victory last month when the district court in Iowa declared the Iowa statute unconstitutional as a violation of the First Amendment. And this was a statute that essentially made it a crime to gain access to one of these facilities to show what truly happens to animals on factory farms.
So there have previously been cases, it's one of the reasons we got these laws, where people went undercover, they filmed what was going on, and they've revealed some truly horrible things. In those sorts of investigations, what sort of practices have we found out about?
Yeah, and there have been dozens of these investigations over the last few years, and every single one has shown really egregious treatment of animals. And the industry wants to say that they really just show a few bad apples, a few line workers who are acting out. But in fact, the most significant thing that these investigations reveal are practices that are common and pervasive and really endemic to factory farming and the corporate model of turning animals from sentient beings into objects. And they show things like intensive confinement of chickens in battery cages for eggs, pregnant pigs in gestation crates for pork. They show routine mutilations of farmed animals, things like removing the beaks of egg-laying hens, removing the tails of animals without anesthesia. Really horrific things that factory farming relies on as a business model.
You know, it seems like if their argument is that these investigations show just a few bad apples, I think they're moving in the wrong direction. They shouldn't be trying to ban cameras. They should be putting live streaming webcams in all of their factory farms. If it's all, run of the mill, it's all going well, these are just bad apples, then they should want people to see what's going on there. Obviously, that is not the case. And as I said in the last segment, I've actually, previously for videos we've done for the Young Turks, I used to edit the videos of what's happening in these pork farms and things like that. And seeing people just throw piglets and step on them and things like that is absolutely disgusting. Now, I am curious, whenever you pass a bill like this, I mean, we understand why the factory farms would want these sorts of bills, but what is the argument that they provide to attempt to justify them?
Well, they've gotten a little bit more sophisticated. Some of the early bills were pretty transparent about what they wanted. They said these animal rights groups are going in and revealing how animals are treated on factory farms, and it's hurting our bottom line and making us look bad, and we need to kill the messenger, was essentially their original argument. But of course, as the backlash to these bills has grown, they've tried to get more sophisticated. In Iowa, for example, they claim that this was about biosecurity, about keeping out unauthorized workers who, undercover activists or journalists who might spread diseases, which is of course ridiculous. If you've ever been to one of these facilities, they are absolutely filthy. We're talking, thousands of animals in horrific conditions, and the idea that it's the journalists or the animal rights activists who are doing undercover investigations that are posing a biosecurity threat rather than the abuse of animals, I think really gives the lie to the rationales that they're coming forward with.
So I know that in the recent history, there's been a couple of different states that have cracked down on this. There have been a couple of good developments, like in Iowa earlier this year. Has there been any polling? Do we know what people actually think about these sorts of laws? Do they actually support them?
Most people don't. Certainly, if you look nationwide, there's a huge backlash to these laws, and of course, people are saying if the meat industry is having to pass laws that make it illegal to do undercover investigations, what are they trying to hide? But even in states where these have passed, states like Idaho and Utah, there's overwhelming opposition from people to these laws, and I think it really demonstrates the outsized influence that the agricultural lobby has at state houses across the country, especially in states that are heavily reliant on agriculture for their economy.
So has there been any movement to attempt to do something at the federal level in terms of these laws?
There hasn't been. I don't think either on the ag industry side or the animal protection side. I mean, it would be great if we could have sort of a federal law that preempted the ability of states to pass these kinds of laws. But I think getting that accomplished in Washington, D.C. is a pretty tall task. Certainly, there have been efforts at the federal level to undercut animal protection laws at the state level. But so far, there hasn't been an effort at a nationwide Ag-Gag law.
And just to step back just briefly with one last question. So we're talking about videos that have come out in the past few years, laws that have been instituted in recent history, but this sort of battle over allowing the public to know what's going on in the production and manufacture of their food. I mean, this is like a long-standing part of journalism, of our culture, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to Upton Sinclair and the jungle, the very foundations of investigative journalism at the turn of the last century. This has been an issue that has concerned people. And, from the time of the Industrial Revolution, the mechanization of food production has been something that has been a great concern and has often sacrificed the will of, the people for corporate profits. And so I think it's incredibly important for there to be a window into the kinds of corners that corporations are trying to cut when it comes to food production.
And hopefully in the near future, at least in Iowa, we will see that window opened. Matthew Liebman, thank you for joining us on the show. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.